It is week 2 of the high school football season, and we are live at Bobby Lackey Stadium as the Weslaco Panthers finally get an opportunity to get on the field, and they do it here at home against San Antonio Marshall. Hello, everybody. Carlos Roberto here along with Mike Gonzalez for the Miriam Guerra Allstate Insurance pregame show, and the Panthers are going to get on the field. Last week, their game canceled because of Hurricane Harvey. They were supposed to travel up to George Ranch for an opportunity to get that first look at the Weslaco Panthers. Instead, it will happen here in week 2 at home against San Antonio Marshall. And it might be a little bit of an advantage for the Weslaco Panthers, Mike, that they get a little extra practice before that first game.
Yeah, I agree, Carlos. Even though they didn't get to play or start the season up in Houston area last week, it enabled the coaches to work with the kids a little bit more, kind of sort of like a bye. They did have one scrimmage a few weeks ago, but, I think that's an advantage because they were able to stay home instead of going through that grueling drive up in Houston, which can really, really hurt a team a little bit. But, yeah, they were able to just stay home, work on some of the things they need to work on, and, now I think they're ready to go.
It's a new era for the Weslaco Panthers. The Michael Salinas era has arrived. It is here now. They're going to be running out of the spread offense. They'll be passing the ball a little bit more of a balanced attack. And the defense also will be a little bit different. You'll get to see a little bit that here. It's high noon here in Weslaco. They'll be starting at 2 o'clock here. It should be a good game. The Panthers got an opportunity to scout San Antonio Marshall, but Weslaco, they didn't play last week, so Marshall, this will be their first chance to take a look at them.
Yeah, that's right. Last year, when these two teams played each other in San Antonio, it was under a different system, a different staff, and so Marshall really doesn't know much about the Panthers, I'm sure, other than perhaps, maybe talking to a few of the coaches, maybe from the local area, I don't know, but yeah, this is going to be interesting to see how they defend or how they play the Panthers scheme-wise.
Yeah, Marshall will have to make their adjustments on the fly. And a quarterback has been named as the starter here in Weslaco. They're going to go with Marco Leal, the senior, who will be starting at the quarterback position, but you'll see a lot of Jacob Cavazos as well. Marco is the senior. He is the player that led the Panthers midway through the season last year. He came off and started to run that offense for the Panthers as a senior and played a little bit also on 7-on-7 during the summer. He has been named the starter, but expect to see also Jacob Cavazos worked into the offense as well. He is a sophomore, and Elijah Banda. He is a senior quarterback, also dual threat. They're all dual threat quarterbacks, but Banda is a little bit banged up, and he won't be playing here this afternoon.
Yeah, that's right, Carlos. I think what the Panthers decided to do was go the safe route here. Marco Leal was a starter last year, started like the last 2 or 3 games of the season, and so he has that experience of playing at the varsity level, and so he's very familiar with the atmosphere and what it's like to play in front of a big crowd, that senior leadership. Also was a starter on the 7-on-7 team, was a starter on the spring practice, and was a starter when training camp began. And so he's one of the leaders of the team. And so Coach Salinas, I think, did a pretty smart move here with going with Marco Leal here. See what he can do. But, expect to see Jacob Cavazos also in action, a young, promising sophomore who has a bright future with the Panthers. Doesn't have the experience, but, we'll see. I'm anxious to see if and when Coach Salinas is going to put him in here against San Antonio.
All right, so this is not the first time that Weslaco has taken on San Antonio Marshall. It's a 2-game series, and we have highlights from last year's game. Weslaco had to travel to San Antonio Marshall and play in San Antonio, and it was mostly all Weslaco Panthers. Remember this guy, Alex Lara, the track star? Well, he graduated, but he had a big-time run right there to get the ball inside the 25-yard line. Diego Rodriguez punched it in from right there. He played both ways last year, some on defense, a little bit on offense. And Richard Olsak, he's back this year for the Panthers. He had a couple of tremendous runs for the Panthers. This one in for the score, and then he scored again in the second half, and Olsak was able to make a name for himself for the Weslaco Panthers in 2016. He'll be playing also for the Weslaco Panthers this year, as the Panthers beat San Antonio Marshall last year by a score of 48-20. Weslaco wins that game, and you were at that contest, and that was a big win for the Panthers in 2016.
It was, because I want to say that was the first ever win in San Antonio against the San Antonio school, so historically it was a big moment for the school. They had a season-high 500 yards of offense, and they were just gelling. Richard Olsak, again, had a big night, scored a couple of times. The defense, led by Jordan Nichols, did a solid job stopping it. A Marshall team who has the capability of making big plays, and they did have a few, but, they did slow them down, came up with a huge road win, first win of the season.
And for the San Antonio Marshall, the Rams, you're always going to have some D1 players on that team. Anytime you play against a San Antonio school, look out for D1 players, and they got one in Stanley Lambert. He has already committed to Arizona State University, and he's going to be one of those players. He's tall, 6'3". Some people say he's 6'4", 210 pounds, and he is a tall receiver. You'll see him most primarily play on the defensive side of the ball, but he is also a tall, wide receiver as well, and he can go up there. There you see some of his statistics from last year. 287 yards, 3 touchdowns, and in fact, last week he had a touchdown as well, and it was nominated as the catch of the week or the play of the week in the San Antonio area. So that's one of the players they're going to have to look out for, the Panthers, this afternoon.
Yeah, but the Rams have a few others, Carlos, that have D1 prospect status on them. One of them is Rashard Williams, number 43. He stands at 6'5", 250, plays on the defensive line, and also can be used as a tight end. Very, very good pass rusher. So the Panther offensive line are going to have to keep an eye on him. On the offensive side of the ball, they have a guy named Jacob Garza, number 77, plays offensive line. He could play on either side of the line, and he stands at 6'5", 245, and he's a very powerful young man. And I tell you what, Carlos, I saw is away from him, he will finish that pancake off and will either push the guy down or sit on him. So keep an eye on him, number 77.
Yeah, anytime you're playing against a San Antonio school, there's going to be some D1 players lining up on the other side. All right, so for the Weslaco Panthers, who else do you need to know about? We know, of course, about the quarterback situation, but there's some newcomers, some sophomores, some juniors who have made it onto this team. Mike, who are some of the players that you should know that have been impressive during the scrimmage that they had and also during the spring workouts?
This is a team, Carlos, that are going to be really young. They're rebuilding, but there's a lot of potential in this team. Keep an eye on Andrew Olguin, defensive back. Him and Roy Trevino together are going to make an excellent tandem back there in the secondary. And then you have Marco Noriega, who came on strong last season as linebacker, is only a junior. And watch out also for Peyton Kanab, an upcoming sophomore, like Jacob Cavazos, who has a big play capability, who can hurt you as a receiver or even as a back. Matthew Santiago, who's a running back, who's small, but man, can he hit the hole. He was very impressive in that scrimmage against PSJA on the offensive line, led by Matthew Lopez, big, strong young man, along with Richard Carmona, 6'4", 300 pounds, along with Raleigh Vaughn. I mean, these guys are just, there's a lot of potential, Carlos. I mean, it looks promising with a new coaching staff, with a young team, and it's about building this thing up, and so we're excited.
Yeah, the offensive line has looked impressive during their workouts, during the scrimmage, very big and very athletic as well. So look out for that O-line for the Weslaco Panthers. The Panthers right now are warming up. Game time, 2 o'clock here at Bobby Lackey Stadium. Let's take a look at some of the scores that we had from Thursday night and Friday night. Remember, this is a 2 o'clock game, so a lot of scores, a lot of games already took place. A disappointing loss for the sister school, Weslaco East. 6 turnovers in that game. McAllen Memorial beats Weslaco East 28-14. Harlingen, another team to look out for in 32-6A. They are now 1-1 on the season as they bounce back. They beat United South 21-6. San Benito, probably the favorites in 32-6A. They beat East Central, San Antonio East Central 44-18. Harlingen South, disappointing loss to them. They lose to PSJA 31-24. And then Mercedes beat McAllen Rowe, winning that game 27-20. That's the team the Panthers will be playing next week at the Jungle in Mercedes. 401 total yards. And then Donna, they beat PSG North 24-20. All right, before we go, we want to talk to one of the former members of the Weslaco Panthers. Jordan Nichols is here. And Jordan, I know he wants to put on the pads. You're all out of eligibility, but how does it feel to be out here, first time on the field, to see your Panthers out there? And you're not playing because you were a 3-year starter for the Panthers.
It feels good watching them out there and seeing how they've developed from the past time I've seen them. I'm really excited to see how this game plays out.
Jordan, you had an opportunity to play San Antonio Marshall last year as a starting linebacker. And, as they say, when Valley teams play teams from upstate, like the San Antonio schools, they gain a lot of experience, and they're able to take that and use it going forward. What did you talk a little bit about that, about how it benefits us?
It benefits us a lot. Like, we get see people from the next level, like D1 athletes like the team has. And it's just a mindset you have to have. You can't go in there with any doubt. You have to trust your teammates. You have to trust your coaches and just do your part as a team.
Tell me a little bit about what are you doing right now? I know that you had a couple of people that were talking to you or maybe an opportunity to play football at the next level, but you decided, hey, I want to concentrate on school and get going with a career.
Yeah, I'm going to UTRGV. My major is exercise science, and I help my dad out at Gateway Auto Auction where he's the manager at.
How much do you miss football? I'm sure this isn't easy for you to be here and not being able to put on those pads and get ready for a game.
Yeah, I miss it a lot. The nervousness, the energy you have, the excitement you get whenever you make a play or seeing the fans cheer for you is a good feeling, and of course I miss it.
This is going to be their first chance to play. Some of these guys are sophomores. They're going to be their first chance on varsity. What would you tell them? What kind of advice, if you were in that locker room, what would you tell them about their first game?
Don't be scared to make mistakes. That's how you get better, and trust your teammates, trust your older players that have experience, and just learn from them.
I mean, you came in as a sophomore, and we're going to have a lot of sophomores on the roster this year, so you know what they're going through, don't you? As, you know, going up against guys that are 2-3 years older than you, and I mean, the intimidation factor can be a little stressful. You know, what was it like for you?
I had a pretty good tour mentor, Michael Brandon Torres. I looked up to him a lot, and he showed me how things were done, and he basically just told me one day, play the way you play, and don't try to be someone you're not, because that's how you're going to get the best player out of yourself.
All right, thank you very much. That's Jordan Nichols right there, former linebacker for the Weslaco Panthers. Mike Gonzalez, I'm Carlos Roberto. You were watching the pregame show brought to you by Allstate Insurance, Miriam Guerra. We will have, of course, a postgame show after the contest. San Antonio Marshall versus the Weslaco Panthers right here live at Bobby Lackey Stadium. We will see you after the game.